Take it.
What is going on, Freedom Fighters? Welcome back to another Mile High Monday here on Break the Chains Media. Today is Monday, December 8th, 2025, and I'm your host, Corey. We're going to be getting into it real quick. We're going to do like a power hour in like 20 minutes. So a lot of stuff to get into. I kind of pulled an audible because I wanted to make a video, a standalone video, which will come out tomorrow, but I also have a lot of things happening after into the evening hours, so I'm not going to be able to do my full live stream. So I said, screw it. We're just going to do a crushed, consolidated, concise version of the live stream today. A lot of stuff to get into. We have Senator Gonzalez is actually announcing her run for U.S. Senate. The Colorado senator who is quite literally a cultural Marxist. She's pushing Marxism. She's pushing an entire leftist agenda here in Colorado. Very insufferable woman. So she's running for U.S. Senate, and a lot of my older videos of her prior Judiciary Committee hearings is making the rounds on Twitter. So we're going to get into that. I also wanted to get you an update on the interesting case of Tina Peters. I mean, I'm telling you right now, someone could make an anthology, a multi-series TV show on this drama that's unfolding and ensuing with this Tina Peters case. You've got two different factions arguing for the truth. There are people who are asking for an overt federal intervention to Tina Peters' case, and there's also another group who is saying that's not the solution, that's not the answer. Information that's been put out into the public sphere is misleading. There's a lot to get into, and I don't want to deter good efforts and good-willed individuals fighting for election integrity, fighting for the truth and justice that our election systems are compromised. Our election systems have been overrun through electronic voting systems, electronic voting machines. However, there is a larger, more, I don't want to say nefarious, but a co-opted play being instituted and using Tina Peters as a scapegoat to push this larger political divide, or this level of quote-unquote civil war, as we commonly call it nowadays. But we're going to get into that. We're going to touch on that. We might not get into the full detail. But I also, the main thing I wanted to make in this video, I wanted to talk about this Governor Polis and this PUC committee that was instituted with Excel, and how Colorado State is trying to push a complete removal of natural gas for heating and cooling and using your appliances that require natural gas. They're trying to completely use this Agenda 2030 climate change, green energy narrative to remove entirely this natural gas that's been actually, it's vital and it's important for not only colder climates, but just in basic chemistry. Having the combustion and having the means to heat yourself in your home is much more viable than pushing electric energy down power lines and transmission lines to use electric systems to heat your home. So there's a whole angle, a whole viable science-based angle on why it's wrong, but the larger angle on using the World Economic Forum, using this the COP30 initiative, using the Paris Climate Accords, using Agenda 2030, this larger Agenda 2030 narrative that is being used by politicians, by left-leaning politicians, to promote and usher in a new era of energy production that falls away from natural gas. Now, don't get me wrong. I do think that there are solutions that we can have that we can foster into a new energy revolution, but to say that we have to eliminate and remove natural gas and using that for heating purposes is completely absurd. So we're going to get into all that, everything here on Break the Chains Media. It's going to be a quick one, folks. I've got about 15 minutes to send it to you, so let's send it to you. You can do the regular thing. BreakTheChains.media, that is the website. Chainsaw Caucus is the group that works with me. In the description down below, you can click on the link in the description down below. Check out chainsawcaucus.org and submit your donation. $10 a month gets you access into Chainsaw Caucus, and it supports the channel. So without further ado, we are going to get right into it, folks. So there was a lot I needed to get into, but we're going to make this short and simple and quick. The whole Tina Peters thing, a lot is going on, and it's arguably very difficult to keep tabs of, to keep track of, because yes, Tina Peters was instrumental in exposing what happened in Mesa County. What is up, Salty Grower? Appreciate you. Yes, here we are. We're live. We are live. Thanks for hanging out, man. Appreciate you. This is going to be definitely a shorter live stream than normal because later today I've got some stuff to do as far as the county. In my county, there's a big things happening with the GOP. So I've got an event I need to get into tonight. So I'm not going to be able to do my normal later live stream. So we're doing it all now. Anyways, we're getting into it right here. The case of Tina Peters is extremely interesting. Just today, Tina Peters' attorney submitted a formal pardon request from Trump. And I said, based on the evidence and the precedent set in her case, a presidential pardon for state charges stemmed from her federal duties should be upheld. All the names are named, the sabotage exposed. It's a nine-page release from her attorneys. From the Ticton Law Group, the attorneys of Tina Peters released a 9-page letter to the president directly requesting a presidential pardon. Now, I know you're going to get all of the naysayers saying, well, the president can't pardon Tina on state charges. And you're absolutely correct. And this is actually the larger predicated problem that comes with this angle of approach when it comes to the Tina Peters case. It's extremely interesting, and I don't really have a solution. We're just kind of reporting it as it comes. As the news breaks, I report you the news. And this is what I think a very important news article, because her lawyers claim that she was doing her federally obligated duty, and the states charged her on state charges, and the state and the court omitted federal evidence from her case. And her case, it's intimately tied with, obviously, the election interference, the election rigging. However, Colorado State filed her charges against Colorado crimes. Now, I think that they do have... I think there is valid arguments to be had in this letter, especially when they bring up the Caraval Barrios, the Venezuelan whistleblower, talking about Smartmatic. And I've been talking about Smartmatic for a long time, right? So there is a lot of truth in these reports. Talking about Venezuelans working for Smartmatic were deployed to the United States, given visas, and began modifying Sequoia brand election equipment in Chicago. Like, all of this information is pivotal to the election interference. However, it does not, and this is my opinion, it does not remedy the court case and the criminal charges against Tina Peters in Colorado. It does not necessarily exonerate her for the crime she committed in Colorado, because I've also said this. She did commit crimes against the state by turning off cameras, by offering out falsified information. They used false identities for Conan Hayes to enter that room, in which she turned off the cameras. So she did quite literally break the state law, right? And that's not questioned. And the fact is that there's so many layers to this, right? What I'm saying is, I'm not saying that Tina is not a victim of this judicial weaponization. Tina Peters is the scapegoat that the Democrats are using to hide their election interference, right? There is election interference going on, and Tina Peters quite possibly uncovered some of that and discovered the larger apparatus that was happening in Colorado. However, her lawyers, her attorneys here are going about this, in my opinion, the wrong way, and trying to use the larger federal election evidence as reason to exonerate her, even though the judge denied all of this. The judge was trying to get her on state crimes. So for them to bring in larger federal crimes would then bring that up to a federal argument, right? Absolutely. Smash that thumbs up. Let's go. Let's repost this. Because, and I don't think we're going to get a solution here. We're talking about Mesa County clerks and the lone copy of the 2020 data. And this is the interesting thing, folks. Elbert County clerk also obtained the 2020 voter data in a lawful way. So the Elbert County clerk obtained the 2020 data and retained that information and never went to prison and is not in prison, and it's not against the law. It's very interesting how Tina Peters was railroaded into this position, and there are proponents that want to free Tina, that do understand that elections are rigged, that there is election interference going on. However, there's another group within this larger group that are claiming that there are bad actors on the right who used Tina Peters, who framed her as the scapegoat on the right, to then foment and institute a larger, let's use the term lightly, a quote unquote hostile takeover and a escalation effort to predicate a quote unquote civil war, right? Polis does have the supreme authority to either commute or pardon or reduce her sentence. But I do think that there is a step to be taken, that Trump and the Trump administration can bring Tina in under federal protection while she's still serving her sentence. And there's a whole larger conversation of her health that's in decline, of so many other things that the prison malpractice that's happening there. This is all hearsay, right? This is what we're hearing on the wire, right? It's unconfirmed, but her health is declining, and she's not being treated fairly in these prisons. So there is a argument to be had when it comes to federal protection. But there is it gets so convoluted, because I posted all this, and then there's other people coming down here talking about quite arguably a larger discussion to be had. Where was it? I'm trying to find it here. Scott McMahon, and this, I'm going to make a whole separate video on this, because this is just happened in the last hour, which is why I had to shift gears. I wanted to make a standalone video, but here we are doing a live stream. Okay, so we're pulling an audible, folks. So Scott McMahon from he on the handle Bigger Truth, he said the problem is that none of this is true, in reference to her attorney's plea for a pardon. And I asked him, well, what is true and what's the best course of action? Why would her attorney go to this length using falsehoods? He said, great questions. I answered the first in the thread, provided my hunch on the second question as well. And we're just going to do a quick rundown through this, but Scott McMahon on Twitter says, the only way to free Tina Peters, for years, many on the right have been told a simple story about Tina Peters. She did nothing wrong. She saved election records. She exposed fraud that was punished for it. None of that is true, as per Scott. And I've never said that she did nothing wrong. I do believe she did commit crimes. I also do believe that her sentence of 9 years is extreme, and she shouldn't be punished at this level of degree for what was done. However, Scott McMahon goes on to say, unless we confront the real facts, Tina Peters will spend years, possibly the rest of her life, in prison. Worse, certain Flynn-aligned operatives are using her as a psychological weapon to provoke a constitutional crisis or even civil war. Flynn-aligned operatives are using her as a psychological weapon to provoke a constitutional crisis or even civil war. The thread is a summary of the following Substack post. If you want to go check him out on Substack, definitely go check him out. I'm going to probably do that too. Fact number 1, Tina did not preserve election records. At trial, the deputy clerk testified she had already created a 3 full backups of the 2020 election system before Conan Hayes ever showed up. This was done on Secretary of State's instructions. Nothing needed rescuing. Very interesting. The Hayes forensic image was legally worthless and possibly not even real. No chain of custody, no functioning surveillance cameras. Tina turned them off. No proof the image even came from Mesa County's machine. No proof Hayes didn't alter the system first. It would never be admissible in any court. And even if that image didn't show fraud, it showed vulnerabilities in the cybersecurity community already knew about. So the claim that Tina proved fraud collapsed twice. The image couldn't be validated, and even if it couldn't show fraud. If she thought she was doing the right thing, she would not have turned off security cameras, brought in Conan Hayes under fraudulent identity, and lied to the Secretary of State's office about who was secretly recording them. She knew why the cameras had to be turned off. This is all very interesting, and I'm just reporting what is being showed in this thread. And I just think it's all very provocative, and it's very this thought process is very interesting. I am entertaining this because I want honest elections. I want the truth to be out there. I want us to not have to escalate violently or not escalate in a federal insurgency against a state and against state rights. It's all very, very dangerous to have to speak in this way, right? I don't want this kind of behavior, but here we are. We're talking about it. We're breaking it down right now. Dr. Douglas Frank even said on a 2021 recorded meeting before Tina committed fraud to get Conan Hayes into the EMS room, quote, "It's against the law because you signed a contract, but I have a team, the best in the country." That team was supplied by attorney Kurt Olson, who later joined Tina's defense team. The conflict of interest speaks for itself. This is all very interesting. The setup, how Tina walked into a crime. Between May and August of 2021, the Flynn Network operatives, Flank, Sharona, Bishop, Olson, and others were in constant contact with Tina. They convinced her that Hayes is a white hat. Only he could get the real data. She was saving the Republic. She needed to protect his identity. This is all classic grooming. Meanwhile, the legal groundwork was being laid that she would take the fall. Her attorney spent 2 years trying to turn her case into a litigation of the 2020 election instead of a defense of the crimes she was accused of. And this is where I really resonate with. This is what I really resonate with, is the fact that they shifted the conversation. They shifted the defense about uncovering the 2020 election, when in reality they should have been focusing on proving her defense against the crimes that she was accused of. They tried to insert leaked discovery to protect Stephanie Lambert. They repeatedly disrespected the court, missed deadlines, and filed nonsense. They conditioned the judge to appear biased. And I'm not defending Judge Barrett. I think Judge Barrett's a scumbag in its entirety. I think that Secretary of State Jenna Griswold is still a criminal for what she's done and her leaking of the BIOS passwords, and the fact that she handed out 30,000 flyers to non-U.S. citizens to vote. So there's multiple layers to this, folks. It's so... Yes, this whole thing has... Dude, the whole thing has my head spinning too, man. The whole thing has my head spinning. And I'm just trying to grasp all of the data, all the information, look at all the angles objectively, and try to understand what's really going on. So let's keep going through this thread. I thought so as well. And the thing is it maybe it didn't show fraud, but maybe it showed that the system is corruptible. The system is accessible to third parties. And this might show the vulnerabilities in our election system, validating how the election system, electronic election machines, can be compromised through third parties, i.e. bringing it back to Smartmatic, bringing it back to Venezuela, bringing it back to the larger structure that our election systems are compromised using electronic voting machines. Now, let's keep going. Weeks after the conviction, at sentencing, instead of approaching the judge with humility and contribution to her plea, she failed to take any responsibility, blaming everyone but herself, and arrogantly spoken over the judge. At one point, she even told the judge, "So you know what I'm saying is the truth." And she did, right? There was actually a difficult... The judge was beside himself. So here's the psyop, folks. Here's where we're getting into the meat, right? How they're using her now. On Bannon's War Room last week, Ivan Raiklin demanded Trump send U.S. Marshals to break Tina out of state prison. Peter Tickton, her attorney, said Trump should send the 82nd Airborne Division. This is not legal advocacy. They're trying to goad Trump into starting a civil war over states' rights and give a potential Democrat Congress something to impeach him over. If Trump decides to go this route, it could very well be the nail in the coffin when it comes to litigation and impeachable offenses. If they don't do the right things in this case, in this trial, in this system, it very well could be a demise of the republic as we see it. And this is the broader Flynn network pattern that he described in his book, Exposure to Extremist Ideas, the grooming phase, developing a sense of grievance, psychological demarcation. You develop a sense of grievance, psychological demarcation via a martyr, like Tina Peters is a martyr. And don't get it twisted. I think she is a political scapegoat. They're using this whole trial. Both sides are using this trial for their own means. The Democrats are saying that our elections are secure and Tina Peters is a criminal and she gets everything she deserves. And then the other side saying she's innocent, she's free, she's exposing the corruption. Both sides are fundamentally factual and false at the same time. It's wild. And folks, let me know in the chat what you think, because I'm still trying to make sense of this all, because I fundamentally believe that our elections are compromised through electronic systems. The electronic voting systems, through Venezuela's Smartmatic systems, using the data and the infrastructure that used in Smartmatic is now used in Dominion, which is now Liberty Vote. Now it's owned by a U.S. company, an America-owned company. Sure, that's great and wonderful. But here is the big corruption, is that how they use this narrative to promote and foment escalation in their own agendas. That is the problem. Foster new identity. What the Flynn network is using Tina to push follows into activate violence. We are being baited into a trap. Meanwhile, Joel Altman frequently visits Tina in prison, told his audience, I don't even want to say that, but if you want to go see the Joel Altman clips, it's out there for everyone to see. Okay? He's calling to this level of escalation. And I do not want this level of escalation. We do not need this level of escalation. This is accelerationism, folks. The appeal designed to fail. Tickton's appeal urges... Tickton's appeal argues that Tina was a federal agent during federal election, thus exempting from state jurisdiction. I've said that on these streams as well. There is no such precedent, but this could be the case. This could be a case to set federal precedent in state-run elections or state convictions, right? This could be a precedent set. This could very well be, if we do it the right way, if we have conversations, if we try to break this down authentically and using words and using conversation and using proper legal avenues, this could set a precedent for federal level pardons on state crimes, given the fact that Tina was doing a federally required obligation. So I'm still open to that conversation. Tickton's appeal argues that Tina was a federal agent during federal elections and thus exempt from state jurisdiction. No such precedent exists. The likelihood of success was near zero even before Tickton publicly threatened the judge with, quote, military tribunals and accused him of, quote, treason. And when it fails, the Flynn Network grievance narratives will accelerate towards civil war. I don't want that. The reality is Tina is being conditioned as a martyr. Her frequent Flynn Network visitors reinforce her to the fact that you're innocent, you're a hero, the judge is corrupt, Hayes is a white hat. I don't believe half of those things. I don't believe Hayes is a white hat. I believe he was a Fed operative. I believe that there was a larger network to try to frame her as the victim, right? I believe she is being played. Tina Peters is playing a pivotal role in this escalation into a states' rights versus federal rights versus pardon versus escalation over election integrity. That there's such, it makes your head spin. It really does. It really does. The only peaceful way to free her, there is exactly one legal path. Fire everyone on our legal team. Every Flynn-aligned attorney must go. Hire a totally independent, top-notch Colorado criminal defense attorney. Appeal on the only viable argument that Tina was misled, manipulated, and encouraged by people she believed were legal authorities. Her counsel acted against her interests. She lacked criminal intent. Court could remedy this. The courts could remedy this. I'm trying to be as objective as I can on this. I appreciate you, Salty. Trump should privately urge her to replace her legal team and change her strategy. Not marshals, not paratroopers, not threatening or straining for leverage against states' rights. We need to have a conversation. That could genuinely save her life. Hopefully something comes out of this. The stakes, Scott McMahon post. This is a great thread. I highly encourage everyone to check it out. It's on my post on X. Break the Chains M on X. Scott McMahon at Bigger Truth on X. The stakes. If nothing changes, her appeal fails. She could die in prison. The Flynn Network operatives could use her as a rallying cry. Calls for violence. Civil liberties get crushed. The architects walk away untouched. Tina deserves better. We all deserve better. Truth, not martyrdom, will set Tina Peters free. So you can check this all out here on the post. Folks, I went on way longer than I wanted to on this Tina Peters thing, but I think it is interesting. I think we have to be objective with this because I did post the attorney's response, and I do believe there are threads of truth in what I just spoke on, and there are threads of truth in the conversation to be had about a larger corrupt Colorado election interference apparatus working with Jenna Griswold, working with the Secretary of State's office, manipulating votes, manipulating data. I do believe that that can be true as well, along with the fact that Tina Peters and this whole attorney council and all of the conversations being had about escalation is also a path not worth following. It's absolutely incredible. It makes your head spin, but reporting objectively and putting the facts out there so everyone can understand what angles are being taken from a right-wing Flynn-aligned network of election interference agents and a literal fact that they're year over year, cycle over cycle, elections have been manipulated, elections have been affected by backdoor deals, by data log, by switching, by manipulating votes. There is validity on both sides of this argument, folks. There is validity on both sides of this argument, whether it's from the right wing or the left wing. However, they are both using Tina Peters as a pivotal scapegoat, as a pivotal catalyst in an escalation attempt to further divide our country. And I don't want to see division. I want to see solutions. I want to see truth. And that's what we need to fight for. That is what we need to fight for. Hey, I appreciate you, Salty. Thank you so much, man. I've got about 5 minutes, but I need to rock this out. I'm gonna skip over Senadora Julie Gonzalez running for you. Are you good? Are you good? Sorry, my streaming software is being a little ridiculous right now. State regulators move Colorado towards an all-electric heating by 2050 at any cost. Folks, this is a globalist agenda. This is Agenda 2030 textbook. World Economic Forum, COP agenda. This is all part of their Green New Scam, their climate change communist agenda. They want to control our energy. They want to control our energy infrastructure. They want to control how we live our lives. And for them to remove natural gas from heating, from appliances in the state of Colorado is a globalist Agenda 2030 narrative, okay? Xcel and other utilities must make 41% cuts to natural gas heating emissions in 10 years to transition fully by 2050. Colorado officials are making another major push towards electrification of home heating and deep cuts to carbon from natural gas, despite consumer costs concerns and the Trump administration's attempt to revive the use of fossil fuels. Public Utilities Commission on Monday finalized a state clean heat framework requiring Xcel and other utilities to supply natural gas for home and building heating to cut the carbon emissions from their systems by 41% in 10 years. The utilities are expected to reach 100% decarbonization of building and heating by 2050, an ambitious goal celebrated by the environmental and clean energy groups who had pushed for an even faster schedule. This is Governor Polis is a California commie transplant. He came here from Colorado, tried to destroy this country. Excuse me, I get so fired up. Governor Polis is a Colorado transplant from California. He is a Governor Polis is a California commie transplanted here into Colorado to push globalist agendas. He was working hand in hand with the Gang of Four. He was one of the Gang of Fours. Jared Polis was one of the Gang of Four members that came here, along with Pat Stryker and two others. I always forget their names. Jared Polis came here 2 decades ago to totally change the Colorado political landscape. And now they're trying to usher in, on his last year of his governorship, they're trying to usher in all this Green New Deal, this globalist agenda narrative, right? You've got the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs, the Sustainable Development, the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, the United Nations plans for sustainable development. It's the little rainbow badge that they all see, okay? All of these mark different colors, different organizations, different efforts, global efforts that they try to do, that they try to push onto the people for their globalist Agenda 2030 narrative. So the Sustainable Development Goals, right over here, folks. That little rainbow badge you see, that is a globalist badge. Globalism 101 is this right here, okay? Development goal number 7, ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all. They've got a whole plan proposal. I was going to make a larger video on this today, but I'm going to have to do that tomorrow. So stay tuned, folks, because I do have to wrap up this live stream like right fucking now. Goal number 7 and goal number 13 in particularly are these sustainable goals that they're trying to achieve with this globalist 2030 agenda. You've got the World Economic Forum. IEA roadmap outlines immediate steps oil and gas industry must take to cut emissions. Folks, I've got to cut this because I've got places to be. I've got things to do. I've got freedom to fight for, and that's why I had to make this stream extremely quick. I went on for Tina Peters way too long, but folks, hit that smash button. Wow, hit that smash button. What the fuck? I'm losing it, folks. I'm losing it. But smash that thumbs up button. Hit the subscribe if you're on YouTube. Do all the things. Comment, share this video. I know it's super short, but you got to follow the stream, got to follow the channel, because I'm going to be pumping out standalone videos about this globalist Agenda 2030 environmental Green New Scam that's going to happen in Colorado with the PUCs, with Xcel Energy. I'm going to make a standalone video on that. I'm going to make a standalone video on the whole Tina Peters fiasco. And I'm going to make a standalone video about Senadora Gonzalez and her run for U.S. Senate. So, I got to go save Colorado, folks. I appreciate you. I love you. And as always, fight for freedom and never give up.